So, today we're going to dive into one of history's most incredible military showdowns, the Siege of Jotapata. And trust me, this wasn't just a simple battle of swords and shields. No, this was a high-stakes chess match, a real duel of wits between two absolutely brilliant commanders. Okay, so picture this. It's 67 AD. The Roman Empire is, well, it's the Roman Empire, right? The absolute peak of its power. And they've decided to put down a rebellion in Judea. Standing in their way is this small, fortified city called Jotapata. And to Rome, it looks like just another speed bump, something they're going to steamroll right over.
So that brings us to the big question, the one we're really digging into here. How on earth could a tiny city even hope to stand up against the greatest empire in the world? I mean, it sounds impossible, doesn't it? You've got this small garrison facing off against the super-disciplined, technologically advanced Roman legions. But as we're about to see, the answer isn't just about who has the bigger army. It's about who has the better strategy. All right, so leading the Roman charge is a guy named General Vespasian. And this guy is no joke. He's a future emperor and an absolute master of siege warfare. His plan, it's pretty straightforward and pretty brutal. Just crush Jotapata with pure, overwhelming force. He's going to bring out all the big guns, all of Rome's legendary engineering and firepower.
So what's the first move? Well, Vespasian's legions immediately get to work, building a massive siege bank. Think of it like a gigantic earthen ramp designed to get their war machines right up to the level of the city's walls. And to build this thing, they literally stripped the mountains nearby of every single tree. We're talking a colossal amount of wood and stone.
And while his crews are working, how do you protect them? Simple. Vespasian just unleashes his artillery. The scale of this is, honestly, it's staggering. 160 siege engines. Think about that. 160, all pointed at this one little city. It's just a terrifying display of Roman power. And this Roman arsenal was absolutely devastating. You had engines flinging stones that weighed over 70 pounds, a talent they called it. Not to mention lances, fire, and just a constant, relentless rain of arrows coming from these specialized Arabian archers. The top of those walls, it basically became a death zone. If you stood up there, you were a target.
But here's the thing. The defenders of Jotapata, they didn't just sit there and take it. They didn't cower behind their walls. No way. They started launching these daring, lightning-fast raids, what we'd call guerrilla-style attacks. They'd burst out of the city, hit the Roman workers, try to tear apart their equipment, and set fire to that huge siege bank. It was super risky for sure, but it was all they had to try and slow things down.
Okay, so this is where we meet the other guy in this duel. The commander on the other side, the Jewish general, Josephus. He's up on the walls, watching that Roman ramp get closer and closer, and he knows he can't win with brute force. He's staring down what really seems like an impossible problem.
So Josephus orders his men, we need to build the wall higher. But his builders, they basically tell him it's a suicide mission. You can just feel their despair in this quote from the time. They're like, it's impossible to get it done while so many darts are being thrown at us. I mean, can you blame them? How do you build anything when you're being bombarded by 160 machines?
And this is where Josephus's genius really shines. He comes up with a solution that is just completely out of the box. He tells his men to stick these huge wooden posts into the top of the wall. Then they take freshly skinned, wet ox hides and stretch them across the posts like a giant screen. And just like that, behind this bizarre flexible curtain, his builders could finally work in safety. So, why did this weird idea work so well? It was brilliant, actually. See, the soft, wet hides wouldn't shatter when a 70-pound stone hit them. They'd just give. They absorbed the impact. The arrows and lances, they just glanced right off. And any of those fire projectiles the Romans were launching were instantly put out by the moisture. It was so simple, but it was the perfect counter.
The plan was a massive success. I mean, a stunning success. Shielded behind this weird wall of hides, the builders raised the main wall by another 30 feet or so. And the Romans? They were completely demoralized. They thought they were this close to winning. And then this happens. They were just astonished by Josephus's ingenuity and the fact that these guys just wouldn't quit.
So now Vespasian is, well, he's furious. He's embarrassed. His whole brute force strategy has just been completely outsmarted. So he pivots. He changes tactics. His new thinking is, okay, if I can't break through their walls, I'll break the people inside the walls. He decides to settle in for a long siege and just starve the city into submission.
Vespasian's big hope is that the city is running out of food and water. And he's half right. Here's the situation inside Jotapata. They actually have plenty of grain stored up. But water, that's the problem. They have no natural spring, no fountain. They rely completely on collected rainwater, and that supply is getting dangerously, dangerously low.
Josephus knows this. He knows water is his Achilles heel. But instead of just rationing and trying to conserve every last drop, he decides to do something incredibly bold. Another huge risk. And this time, his target isn't the Roman siege engines. It's the Roman mind.
Yeah, he's about to engage in what we now call psychological warfare, or psyops. See, he understands that in a long siege, the attacker's greatest weapon isn't a catapult, it's hope, the belief that the city is about to collapse. And Josephus decides he's going to crush that hope.
His plan is just audacious. You have to appreciate the nerve. In a city that is literally dying of thirst, he orders his soldiers to take their clothes, soak them in what little precious water they have left, and then hang them all along the battlements, just letting all that water drip, drip, drip down the walls, right in plain sight of the entire Roman army.
And the effect was immediate. The Roman soldiers see this, and they just can't believe their eyes. From their perspective, it looks like the defenders have so much water they're literally wasting it on laundry just to mock them. Vespasian? He was completely fooled. He gets so discouraged that he gives up on the whole starvation plan and goes back to trying to direct assaults, which, by the way, is exactly what Josephus wanted him to do.
So when you step back and look at it, this whole incredible story, it shows us that the siege of Jotapata was so much more than just another ancient battle. It's really a masterclass in strategy, in adaptation, in thinking on your feet.
The whole thing was this constant duel, this back and forth. Rome brings its incredible engineering. Jopta hits back with these guerrilla raids. Josephus counters that with this brilliant defensive innovation. And when Vespasian shifts tactics, Josephus pivots again to psychological deception. It was just a relentless, high-stakes chess match.
And ultimately, what the siege of Jotapata really proves is that sheer power isn't always the thing that wins a conflict. Things like morale, innovation, and just the raw ability to outthink your opponent, they can be every bit as powerful. They can turn what looks like a hopeless defense into a legendary standoff.
And that's what's so cool about this story. It leaves us with this timeless question, one that goes way beyond ancient battlefields, right? You can apply it to anything, in any conflict, whether it's war, business, or even in our own lives. When does the mind become a more powerful weapon than the sword? At what point does being clever become more important than just being strong?